think I have anecdotal evidence that suggests both yes and no. So it kind of depends on what you outsource, like we've talked about. Outsourcing commodity features can increase your value by focusing your internal resources on differentiation and your team expertise on core IP. So headcount in an acquisition helps for that internal team. And the outsourced stuff could be the 1,000 plugins to your system. And that can actually increase your value by having more plugins than your competitor, by having outsourced and expanded your team size. What I see working in M&A is that investor perspective varies depending on their deal thesis. So if I want to buy or invest in a company, some see strategic outsourcing as smart resource allocation. Others worry about intellectual property and control and know-how. Some are looking to buy a competent team to add to their portfolio and assimilate and get those skills. OpenAI acquired Johnny Ive's company because he wants Johnny Ive, right? There's situations like that. But M&A, I've never seen a deal go south specifically because the code was written by outsourced companies. They just want to know, how am I valuing the deal? I'm going to have to retain this company when we acquire you. But it also presents as an opportunity to say, I can reevaluate these contracts. I can renegotiate it. I can find other providers. So some investors look at that as an opportunity, not a weakness. I think the big question that affects your valuation here isn't who wrote it, but it's the quality of that execution. Did you have well-managed outsourcing with proper documentation and knowledge transfer, maintaining the value? It's not going to be a problem. Transition planning, was that critical transition planning? Have you shown that we can take that external build and bring it in-house or switch partners or, normalize across who's doing it? We're not specifically tied to that outsourced dev shop. Good contracts are important. Proper contracts ensure that you own all the code these outsourced people make and that you can maintain it independently, that they're indemnifying you against the fact that they might have just stolen it from someone else's open source project and you didn't know. So clarity around your IP ownership is important. And when I see M&A transactions with heavy development from outsourced companies, those things are scrutinized. In fact, I actually helped a company that didn't scrutinize it, and they got in big trouble when they realized that the company they just bought did all of their core development with an offshore team in Slovakia, where the law says the guy who wrote it owns it, regardless of who paid for it. Seems like a thing you should have known before you got into that deal. So that could be the value of your company. That's when that company realized we just paid tens of millions of dollars for a thing we don't actually own anymore. And, again, that outsourcing value to your company, I think more and more it's less about headcount. A lot of times we talk about deals about dollars per headcount, but more and more it's about capability. If you can demonstrate that your company, onshore, offshore, nearshore, in-house, if your company can demonstrate you can build and maintain the critical value of your systems, regardless of the team structure, I think that's what matters most.